Hey there, pubsters! It is Saturday, October the 24th. As you know, we just passed the Back to the Future, day.
Yeah.
Thank you to Rhett and Link for making the shirt, by the way. Today we're actually going to be covering stories about the iPad Pro as well as the Apple TV coming out, including some other things.
So one of the first things we wanted to talk about this week was that Facebook finally got around to fixing their iOS app. Apparently there was a lot of battery drain with this app, and there were a couple of reasons why. Would you like to share?
Yeah, some of them was they were saying that there's been just CPU spin where the app was just running in the background unnecessarily, even when it wasn't up. It was still refreshing content and everything constantly. And there are some ideas to this. Some people saying that it was just a simple bug. It could happen to anyone, which is true. I mean, things like this do happen. It was one of the recent updates that brought this issue upon.
Another one was it had audio. Once it finished playing an audio, it would still go on. It's as though the app is thinking it's playing an audio, but
silent audio.
Yeah, but the audio ended and it's nothing being played. And like you said, some people hypothesized that apparently Facebook was
Illuminati caps.
yeah. Facebook did this on purpose so that their app would be active in the background while you're within another app, and it could preload content and be active too. So I don't know how much of that I believe really.
Yeah, luckily either way, one or the other, the issue's been fixed with the recent update, so you shouldn't have this battery hog going on. People were reporting up to 40% of their battery being used by Facebook.
I for one, Facebook has always had a rocky past in iOS. It's always been a very bad app.
And they worse on Android actually.
Yeah, I don't know why they're not able to develop properly, but basically after the first few years of the iPhone being out, they finally improved it by a lot. But at that point, I was just like, you know what, forget this. So I just use the web OS, and I don't have any battery drain issues, and I won't have the next issue Facebook has. So I'm happy with my decision.
Okay.
So AAA just released their study, similar to last year's, which tests out which technology, specifically voice command technologies, are the most distracting within a car.
And what they found was that Apple's Siri is actually more distracting than Google Now, but less distracting than Microsoft's Cortana. And for some odd reason, the Mazda 6 there, I guess I don't know what system they use in there, but it is considered to be extremely distracting. Now they don't mention the details as to what went into these things, but it's supposed to be more so they're categorizing it on how distracting the procedure is, or what you have to do, or how much you have to think about what you're saying, which rates to these. So I'm assuming either the Mazda system is just horrendously off, where you have to just, I don't know, maybe you have to talk to it and then push buttons and stuff like that, where it's not really voice command anymore. But I don't know. But what we can see is apparently, for some reason, Google Now is really pushing it out there for being less distracting. Not as distracting as what's being used in Chevy's Equinox. Again, I don't know what's going on in the car systems themselves. But yeah.
Probably requiring some sort of interaction or input from the user, like touching the dashboard or whatever.
There was some mention about how intuitive the system is.
Yeah, I would say this though. Siri has come a long way. It used to suck so bad. And the only thing I think that's holding Siri back now is that Google Now, it's so quick, it instantly gives you the results. And I think part of the reason why is because Apple Siri has to send your request through the internet and get back the results. Whereas with Google Now, the package for interpreting the voice commands, it's all on the phone, right?
Well, no, it also still needs a internet connection, but I don't know what it is with it, but it works very fast. It's almost instantaneous. There's no lag between your question and the answer coming back.
but let's say if you want to just create a reminder, you don't need the internet for that, right? It's only for navigation or what movies are playing in this place. But Apple's even when I want to create a calendar task, it does an okay job. It's good, but if there's no internet, you're screwed. It'll give you errors, and sometimes I connect to internet and it still doesn't work. So I wish they would just expand the hard drives on the iPhones and just install Siri on there.
I think we all hope for the memory to be expanded on the iPhones.
But if you look at the chart, you'd see that it is a 0.4 difference between the.
It's not a big difference.
Yeah, well, I think it's still significant enough where it's Apple does need to step up their game. Again, they've improved a lot, but there's definitely room for more.
So now on to some Apple TV news. Apparently, Apple invited some developers to finally start submitting some of their TV OS apps to get reviewed.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there was a news story about how and I haven't mentioned this to you yet, but you're able to actually install stuff on the Apple TV without outside of the Apple's App Store, and it does take a little bit of effort on your part to actually get stuff on
Like
there.
a lot of things where you have to go around certain things for Apple.
Yeah, there are a few workarounds, but apparently you can't do it. I think that's a little bit interesting, but yeah, they did release the SDK and the development tools, and people have been messing around on it and made some interesting stuff.
Which is a good thing considering that they announced that the Apple TV is actually going to be released next Monday for I guess I don't know if it's going to be for pre-orders, but it's supposed to be coming out next week.
Yeah, and I'm personally sitting out of this one. I'm waiting on 4K, but you're...
Yeah, I'm actually going to be picking one up, so we would have an actual, unboxing and a review of the actual product itself this time.
It's kind of funny, like I'm the Apple guy and you're the one getting the product. But and we'll let
I'm
you
getting
guys...
the new Chromecast too, so...
Oh, you are?
Yeah, so I can at least do a little review between those two.
Yeah, so look forward to that. We'll definitely be posting up an unboxing as soon as we get our hands on ours.
Yep.
Okay, so apparently there's this new law where, again, it's kind of like SOPA and CISPA. This one is called CISA, Cyber Information Security Act, and it's another Big Brother attempt to, get access
encroach on your, personal data.
Yes,
and your private life.
And the story here is that Apple has been, speaking out against it again, and obviously going against this whole trend of invading our privacy. Something they're known for in the past.
Yeah, definitely. And they also just this week they announced they had removed 250 apps on the iOS App Store because of the fact that their ad SDKs were collecting personal information on their users.
Yeah, and note that most of these apps are in China because people were downloading a faulty version of Xcode that was not from Apple. It was a mirror. And this mirror had malicious data injecting into the app itself. Now, the stuff the apps were able to do isn't anything that developers don't do. It's just the fact that some third party was doing it and collecting the info that was kind of shady. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Apple shut it down pretty quick. The damage wasn't that big to begin with, but they still, dropped down their iron gauntlets on that one.
Yeah, I mean, Apple's very, they're very focused on protecting their user security. I mean, obviously they collect some data themselves for certain things, but they don't share that information, and they don't like other people trying to collect that data and share it themselves.
They're very upfront, like, hey, can we collect this data about you, and it's going to be anonymized, like we don't know it's specifically your data, it's just some iPhone user in the general area. So they've gone out of their way more and more with every update
which is a good thing in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's been since iOS 7 where they encrypted the device, but they threw away their key. Mm-hmm. So when these federal officials and stuff ask for, hey, give us backdoor access to this phone, they literally can't comply because it's impossible. They don't have the key anymore. So I just love that direction they're going in, and they're really building this walled garden and really protecting their users. And I feel like the iPhone's the only phone I could trust my parents with because of that. But that's pretty much all I have to say about this story.
I think in that sense, for your parents, it's more, iPhones are a lot simpler to use too. I think that just makes it easier.
Yeah, it's supposed to be intuitive. They've gone away from that with their Apple Music. That's like completely unintuitive and complex. But just in general, you're right. Like they are the champions of ease of use.
Because the fact that it's all the same all the time, no matter, you keep upgrading. I mean, there's updates and stuff, but it's the simplicity just makes it, for anyone that you can, if you had an older one, you can pick up the newer one and use it. Whereas with my parents, if I switch them off like an older Android device and go to a newer one, there's all this new shit I need to teach them how to do.
Yeah. So Fraser Spears has been tweeting about his impressions with the iPad Pro, and he had quite a few things to say about what he liked about it, what he disliked about it. Some of the things were just the productivity apps he liked.
Yeah,
he was basically talking about Adobe and Panic apps and Microsoft Suite and things like that. He was saying that these are really good uses of the iPad Pro, and if you're in the market for a tablet that is a productivity tablet,
definitely for work, enabled services. That's what I had mentioned before too when we were talking about this. I don't think the iPad Pro at all in any way was made for like the hey I need your plaything.
Yeah.
It's way too expensive to use for just that browsing and stuff. It's too big. It's kind of gonna be kind of cumbersome to have as a tablet. And some of the things he mentioned, if you're just gonna use it for Netflix and stuff, it just really isn't quite there for that. But in terms of other services to be able to use it as like productivity workflow. It's great to use.
Yeah, and I'm hoping they treat it like that in the sense that the iPad Mini and iPad are more for casual users and casual to moderate.
Obviously you can still use it for productivity.
That's what I mean.
It's been used for productivity. For
that's why I said like to moderate. Like for the iPad Air specifically, I think it could be more productive. The iPad Mini just seems a little too casual. I mean, you can't really get much done on that. But the iPad Pro, I hope it's in its own category compared to the other two. And I hope they treat it that way. But yeah, he was saying that if you're just gonna use it for like Netflix, like you said, it's for just casual use, then it's probably not the best device for you.
Unless you just have money to just
throw out things, yeah. But yeah, and then what else did he say? He said the keyboard he wasn't crazy about. He said it was a bit fiddly.
Yeah, he said it was a bit finicky, but he said experience-wise, it's about the same as other keyboards that have been around.
Logitech,
not just Logitech, but other keyboards people are used to using with the iPad.
Yeah, he said it was basically decent enough, and it didn't sound too promising. But I'm not really concerned about the keyboard.
He did mention that the pencil itself was amazing to use and very intuitive.
And that's the thing about these accessories. As long as the iPad is good, I could swap it out for another accessory. I don't care about Apple's accessories so much as the device itself.
But considering Logitech made a special keyboard for it as well, I'm kind of curious as to see how that's going to play out as well.
Yeah. And I still with the iPad Pro, I know you're more optimistic about it, but I still feel like, okay, for the time being, like back when Microsoft started the whole one device for one operating system for all devices, I thought that idea was
Palm Trios that had like Windows XP running.
I thought that was a bad idea initially, and at the time I still think it was in its time. But I think the tech in tablets are getting to the point where you could have a tablet that turns into that runs a Mac OS when you attach it to the keyboard, and then switches back to a tablet when you detach it.
So you're talking kind of like the Surface Book.
The Surface Book, yes. I've been looking into it lately, and I like what Microsoft's doing. I don't like Windows. I hate that it runs Windows, and
I would never hate on Windows.
I just don't like Windows. It's so crash prone, and I never had a good relationship with Windows. I grew up on it,
I
but
haven't had my desktop crash in ages, unless I'm like overclocking.
I don't know what it is. I don't go to stupid websites and download everything I see. You know what I mean? But I just don't have good luck with Windows. I don't know. I know it's not superstition. I just have bad experiences. But I still think that the new CEO has the right vision, and he's
taking in a good creative direction.
I feel like Apple is going off the fumes of Steve Jobs right now, in the sense that, I mean, they still have a lot of talent, right? But in terms of vision and direction and leadership, I feel like when it comes to the tablet market, Tim Cook isn't really, I don't know, inspiring confidence. He's just
innovating.
Innovating. Yeah, he's just like, okay, it's a big iPad, but it's still an iPad. You know what I mean? You get more done on it, but is iOS really the best?
iOS didn't change much for the iPad. I think what changed much for the Pro, which is making the biggest impact, is the developers that are actually creating these specific apps, like what Adobe came out with, what those medical field research people came out with. Those are what's really pushing the boundaries of what the Pro can do, but not necessarily the operating system itself. I mean, obviously, it's giving you the tools with the pencil and everything, and how it can use that.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Cook knows that. That's why he invited all these big companies to show off their apps. But are apps on iOS, I mean, is split screen multitasking really going to be enough for most people? Is it going to be enough to make it a super powered device? If I'm researching something, it's slow on my iPad. I get on the laptop, open up 10 tabs, looking at, like it's so much quicker. And what I don't understand is if you're going to attach a keyboard to this thing, if you're going to have that input mechanism, why not just include an OS that runs with a keyboard? You basically have a laptop with a touch screen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At that point, you can...
Which has kind of been Windows' specialty for a while now.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. While the tech was in infancy, I wanted my tablet to be a tablet. But now that we're seeing more tablets with keyboards as covers and things like that,
And they're actually more powerful and able to handle a lot
Two
of these.
OSs, yeah. I think that is the future. And I think Apple has done this before where they say, "Oh, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that."
And then they do that.
Yeah, and they want to throw people off. But I hope at that point in time, and it was very recently, it was even less than a year ago, they said we're not going to do that. But I hope.
I'm definitely in the thought that what is it? Tablets are gonna slowly become like the new laptops eventually. It's like they're no longer gonna be just straight up tablets because you can never really give up a physical keyboard for having
Yeah.
legit typing keyboard.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like having to do everything on a touchscreen for if I'm typing an actual essay or anything.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Laptops, they have all the computing power and components where the keyboard is, and the display is just a display. Just reverse that. Have everything in the display, so it's like a tablet, and just a very light keyboard that's basically empty. And use it as a full-on desktop OS when it's attached, and when you detach it, it becomes your tablet and switches all the apps to iOS mode. I know this sounds way easier than done,
Obviously.
but I hope it is in the works at Apple. If not, I'll be very concerned for Apple's future. I think they missed the whole post PC thing. They started it, but they dropped the ball if they don't catch up to Microsoft here.
Obviously, I think it's with like any company, you get into a state of being like in a comfortable zone where you're like, oh, like, hey, look, our tablets are just taking over. Everyone's buying our stuff,
But
like.
and that's not the case with Apple right now.
True, just because of the cost wise, there's a lot of very very low end cost tablets that people buy because of that.
They've been losing. They've been
Market share, yeah.
Yeah, like year after year. It's not even the market share. They're making less sales of iPads. People aren't buying as much. So,
But then again, here's the thing: it's the newer iPads haven't had as much of a big change, over the years prior.
and that's the issue. That's what I'm saying.
That is the issue, and also just the fact that because even though they're losing market share, it's also because there's so many more different companies that are coming out with tablets on an Android or some other OS.
I don't mind that. Okay, like look at the iPhone, right? Okay, so they're not their sales aren't going down year after year. Their market share isn't going down year after year, and the reason why is because they do phones really well. It's a small screen device. There's not much you can innovate after a certain point. It has to be incremental after that until something big hits next. But with the tablet, it's like they had a great idea, great start, very strong start, but there was a lot of room to innovate and they didn't. And
well, again, it's like going out of the comfort zone. I mean, what Microsoft came out with, the book, it's not really something in the simplicity realm of what Apple usually aims for. You have like this second piece that attaches to it that's that runs a more powerful GPU and everything while it's connected. But once
see,
you take
that's
it
the
off,
thing. They already have the mechanism. They have Macs, they have iOS, they have iPad Pro that has a keyboard and a very sophisticated attach. What was it called?
it was the Smart Connect.
Smart connector. Yeah, like it seems like they have everything they need, and maybe they are going in that direction. Maybe we just don't know it yet. But man, they really need to have like a Mac OS that the tablet will still be a tablet. It'll run iOS, but when there's a keyboard attached and it's basically a laptop.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah, like have Mac OS. Like why not?
That's what I was saying. I was hoping that the OS would have been a lot more sophisticated when on the Pro. Remember how they said it was going to be more modularly designed, like older devices run a simplistic, less features on it.
Maybe that's what iOS was about. iOS 9. Maybe that's why they weren't focused so much on jamming a bunch of new features and more on under the hood improvements. Maybe they're preparing things for the
future release.
Yeah,
possibly.
Because like it just seems a little strange that they release iOS 9. It's still buggy. It's still slow. Maybe what they focused their efforts on were preparing the chess pieces for a future update where it could handle switching between OSs or something like that. I know that Apple takes their time with these things. They won't release a new feature just to release it, and once they perfect it, they surprise everyone with how well it's executed. And it wouldn't be the first time. MP3 players existed before iPods, and you know how the story goes. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on where the iPad Pro is right now. I'm still excited for the device. I'm gonna definitely go to store and like play.
Try
with
it out, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We'll have a video for that too.
Yeah.
But no, obviously the iPad Pro has created some, interest in it because as they had said, what is it? KGI for Securities and stuff had forecasted that one of the top products that people are interested in purchasing for the holiday season is the iPad. And now, whether that's just the new iPad Mini, the regular iPad Air 2, or the Pro, all three, that is what's on people's list of wanting to buy or to purchase.
It's one of those things I have to go to the store and put it in my hand and see it. Like, is this something I can use? And I won't know. Maybe I could picture myself in the future getting rid of my iPad Air and just having a Mini and a Pro. Like, but right now, I don't know. I guess my wish, my really, really deep wish, is that they take advantage of the iPad Pro and really do something more amazing than just leaving it up to third-party apps and developers. I mean, yeah, it's cool. Like, I saw even Apple updated their iTunes University app, I think it was, to take advantage of the larger screen. But it's gonna take more than iOS to make the iPad Pro.
I think so too. Right now, like I said, they're holding all their all their eggs are pretty much in the developers' hands. It's app creators that are really pushing the iPad Pro. That's what's gonna make it make or break the system
For the start.
Yeah.
But I think it's good enough for now. We both agree on that. Yeah.
I mean, the tech is in there. You have a powerful CPU. You have a very capable touchscreen. You have a very capable pencil that's very innovative, that works well.
The issue is 3 years from now, what do you do? Like, I mean, I think I could get by the first year. The second year, 4 or 5 years later, it's kind of like, if it's just the iPad still, and that's it.
I think the Pro needs to evolve into. I mean, obviously, it's the first thing. Again, with the Surface Book was a new thing that I had heard nothing about. It just seemed to have like showed up on the thing. I was looking forward to the Surface Pro 4.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I was looking forward to, and this just kind of came out of nowhere. But still, again, that's something that I would actually have to try. It's like they say it's amazing and everything and all this, but I would still want to see it in the real world, and see.
Yeah, it might suck. I mean, I haven't even used it yet, and I'm like pushing for it, but it might suck. But in the future, if they are able to do it in a way where it's so natural, I would want Apple to follow suit. And I hope they're not banking on because almost all their revenue is like put into the iPhone. Like, they rely too much on that one product. Like, it's way over 50%. And I think they do want to diversify in case something happens to the iPhone, it falls behind. They still have the car or the watch or something.
Trends always change.
Yeah, so I hope they view the tablet as a big area to improve, because right now it makes good income for them, but it's kind of like the Mac. It's like they do well and they have it, but it's not like they're cash
Bread and
cow.
butter, yeah.
So what was it? When's it coming out? In November.
It's coming out sometime in November, possibly early November. Obviously, before the holiday season, they definitely needed to be out there for, especially considering they're going to be competing with both the Surface Pro 4 and the Surface Book. They definitely need to have something to compete with Microsoft.
Yeah, and the iPad Air 2 is too dated to really drive sales this holiday season.
I was still hoping that they would have came out with some sort of updated.
It would cannibalize sales. I know why they didn't do it. It's either the mini or the huge thing. If they had all three, it would have been like, not many people would have bought that.
Well, unless they had pushed the Pro to be so so much more powerful that it would have made a difference. But obviously, it was more of just, it's a new product to try out. More focused towards developers and creators and creatives, professionals, which obviously is the reason why they wouldn't. But still, it would have been cool to have that system there for the regular iPad, the newer version.
Yeah, and so that about wraps it up for today. Question of the day for you guys. As far as the iPad Pro goes, do you think it should switch to a desktop OS when attached to a keyboard, or do you think iOS only is the way to go?
Or do you even just want it to be a full-on OS, keyboard or not? Like, would you prefer to have something more professional on the iPad Pro?
Yeah.
So again, thank you again for joining us here today. Please subscribe to the channel to help support us out. Like the video if you liked it. And again, we'll catch you again next time.
Take care, pubsters.
Stay classy.